They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but in the 1940s, beauty was a force of nature. It was an era of black and white elegance, where a single glance from under a brimmed hat could tell a whole story. Before the age of filters and fast fashion, there were the sirens of the silver screen. These weren't just actresses, they were the dreams of every man coming home from the front lines. They defined glamour, sophistication, and a dangerous kind of charm that we rarely see today. Today, we're stepping back in time to celebrate the 10 most captivating women of the 1940s. Ladies who didn't just light up the screen, they set it on fire. Number 10. Rita Hayworth, the love goddess. If the 1940s had a definitive face, it was Rita Hayworth. But it wasn't just her face, it was the way she moved. You have to understand, Rita wasn't just a star. She was the love goddess for an entire generation of men who were thousands of miles from home. In the 1946 masterpiece Gilda, Rita performed what is perhaps the most famous striptease in cinematic history, and she did it by only taking off one glove. That was the magic of the era. They didn't need to show everything to make a man's heart race. When she tosses her hair back for the first time in that film and asks, "Me?" the entire world held its breath. But behind that radiance was a story of transformation. Born Margarita Cancino, Hollywood literally reshaped her. They changed her hairline with painful electrolysis and dyed her dark hair that iconic shade of red. She was a professional dancer from the age of 12, and you can see that grace in every step she takes. Whether she was dancing with Fred Astaire or playing the ultimate femme fatale, Rita brought a physicality to the screen that was unmatched. Her image was so powerful that it was literally pasted onto the side of the atomic bomb tested at Bikini Atoll. She famously said, "Every man I knew went to bed with Gilda but woke up with me." It was a heavy crown to wear. But for us, watching her in classics like You'll Never Get Rich or The Lady from Shanghai, she remains the golden standard of 40s allure. Take a moment to watch her dance. You're not just watching a movie, you're watching the peak of Hollywood's elegance. Number 9. Lauren Bacall, The Look. At just 19 years old, a skinny girl with a deep voice named Betty Joan Persky walked onto the set of To Have and Have Not in 1944. Within weeks, she was Lauren Bacall, and she had changed the game forever. Director Howard Hawks told her to keep her voice low, and because she was so nervous she couldn't stop shaking, she tucked her chin into her chest and looked up at the camera. That accidental pose earned her the nickname The Look. It wasn't just a pretty face, it was a gaze that suggested she knew exactly what you were thinking, and she wasn't impressed. When she leaned against that doorframe and told Humphrey Bogart, "You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow." It wasn't just movie dialogue, it was the birth of a legend. The chemistry was so real that Bogart, 25 years her senior, left his wife for her. Bacall brought a modern, sharp edge to the 1940s. She wasn't a damsel in distress. She was the woman who could hold the gun, light the cigarette, and hold her own against the toughest guys on the screen. In films like The Big Sleep and Dark Passage, she defined the Noir woman, mysterious, loyal, and incredibly cool under pressure. She reminded a generation of men that a woman's intelligence was just as striking as her beauty. And that voice? It was like fine bourbon and cigarette smoke, echoing through the cinemas of the 40s. Number 8. Gene Tierney, the Enigma. Gene Tierney possessed a beauty that was almost haunting. Even today, historians often call hers the most perfect face in the history of motion pictures. But Gene was far more than a portrait. In the 1944 classic Laura, she became a cinematic obsession. For the first half of the film, we only see her in a painting over a fireplace, yet every character and every man in the audience is already in love with her. When she finally appears under the glow of a street lamp, she doesn't just meet expectations, she shatters them. Jean had an exotic, high-fashion elegance, but beneath it lay a tremendous acting range. In Leave Her to Heaven, 1945, shot in stunning Technicolor, she played a woman whose love was so intense it became murderous. Seeing those emerald green eyes against the bright red of her lipstick in that film is something you never forget. Her life off-screen was filled with more drama than her movies, from a tragic marriage to a struggle with her own mental health that eventually saw her working in a department store just to find a sense of normalcy. But on-screen, in films like The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, she was ethereal. She represented the sophisticated, untouchable dream of the 1940s. She was the woman you couldn't look away from, a rare blend of porcelain beauty and deep, sometimes dark, emotional power. When we talk about movie stars, we are talking about Jean Tierney. Number 7. Hedy Lamarr, the most beautiful woman in the world. In the 1940s, Hollywood promoters didn't hold back. They billed Hedy Lamarr as the most beautiful woman in the world. And for once, the audience didn't argue. Born in Vienna, Hedy arrived in America with a scandalous reputation and a face that seemed sculpted from marble. But Hedy was a paradox. By day, she was the ultimate siren in films like Algiers and the Technicolor epic Samson and Delilah. In Samson and Delilah, playing Delilah, she was the epitome of biblical temptation. Every frame of that movie was designed to showcase her porcelain skin and jet black hair. However, what really makes Hedy's story worth 4 minutes of your time is what happened after the camera stopped rolling. While other stars were at parties, Hedy was in her trailer or at home with a chemistry set and an inventing table. She was a self-taught genius. During the height of World War II, she co-invented a frequency-hopping communication system intended to stop the Nazis from jamming Allied torpedoes. Yes, the woman you saw on screen as a seductive temptress was the same mind that laid the groundwork for today's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. She was too beautiful to be taken seriously as a scientist and too smart to be just another starlet. She once famously said, "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." Hedy Lamarr never stood still, and she certainly wasn't stupid. She was a woman of the future living in the 1940s, a brilliant mind trapped inside the most perfect face of the century. Number 6. Ava Gardner, the animal magnetism. If Hedy Lamarr was cool and composed, Ava Gardner was fire. They called her the world's most beautiful animal, a nickname she hated, but one that captured the raw, untamed energy she brought to the screen. Ava didn't have to act at being a femme fatale. She just walked into a room. Her breakout role came in 1946's The Killers, based on the Ernest Hemingway story. When she sits at that piano in a black satin dress looking at Burt Lancaster, you understand exactly why a man would ruin his life for her. She had a magnetic, earthy quality that set her apart from the more polished studio stars. Her personal life was a whirlwind that the tabloids couldn't get enough of. She was married to Mickey Rooney, then the bandleader Artie Shaw, and finally in a legendary volatile romance to Frank Sinatra. It was said that Sinatra never truly got over her. In the 1940s, she was the woman who lived life on her own terms. Whether she was playing a nightclub singer or a high society beauty, Ava Gardner brought a sense of real, breathing passion to the screen. She was the girl from North Carolina who conquered the world with nothing but a pair of green eyes and a spirit that no studio boss could ever truly break. To watch her in The Hucksters or One Touch of Venus is to see a woman who was unapologetically herself, a rare thing in the controlled world of old Hollywood. Number 5. Lana Turner, the Sweater Girl. Lana Turner was the ultimate Hollywood Cinderella story. Legend has it she was discovered while drinking a soda at a malt shop on Sunset Boulevard. Whether that's entirely true or not doesn't matter, because once she hit the screen, no one could look away. In the early 40s, she was known as the Sweater Girl, a title that emphasized her curves and made her the premier pinup for millions of soldiers. But Lana was more than just a figure. She was an icon of the melodrama and the noir. Her defining moment of the decade came in 1946 with The Postman Always Rings Twice. The scene where her character, Cora, first appears, dressed all in white, dropping a lipstick that rolls toward John Garfield, is one of the most sensual entrances in cinema history. In that moment, Lana Turner became the face of a dangerous kind of love. She represented the suburban dream turned into a neon-lit nightmare. Behind the scenes, Lana's life was a series of scandals, 7 marriages, and the resilience that saw her survive every tragedy the industry could throw at her. She was the girl next door who went wrong, and the audience loved her for it. Lana didn't just play a star, she was a star, 24 hours a day. She brought a soft, glowing light to the dark world of 40s noir, reminding us that even in the shadows, beauty can be both a comfort and a curse. Number 4. Veronica Lake, the Peekaboo Girl. If you want to know what the early 1940s looked like, you just have to look at the hair. Veronica Lake created a sensation with her peekaboo hairstyle, that long blonde wave that cascaded over one eye, hiding half of her face. It was mysterious, it was seductive, and it became so popular that the US government actually asked her to change it during World War II. Why? Because women working in factories were getting their hair caught in the machinery trying to look like Veronica. That is the kind of influence we're talking about. On screen, she was the perfect partner for the tough guys of the era. Her chemistry with Alan Ladd in films like This Gun for Hire, 1942, and The Glass Key was electric. Standing at just 4 feet 11, she was tiny, but she had a cool, detached presence that made her seem towering. In the masterpiece, Sullivan's Travels, she showed she could handle comedy and drama with equal ease, playing a girl who hits the road during the Depression. But the 40s were both her peak and the beginning of her struggle. Behind that iconic curtain of hair was a woman who found the Hollywood machine suffocating. She was often difficult on set, earning her the nickname The Bitch from some of her male co-stars. Yet, when the lights went down in the theater, all you saw was that shimmering blonde wave and a pair of blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. She was the ghost in the machine of 40s noir, a star who burned bright and fast, leaving an image that is still being imitated 8 decades later. Number 03. Jane Russell, the woman the censors feared. In 1943, a film called The Outlaw was released, and Hollywood was never the same. The star was a newcomer named Jane Russell, and the man behind the camera was the eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes. Hughes was an aeronautical engineer, and he famously applied his knowledge of structural integrity to design a special underwire bra for Jane to wear in the film. The result? The censors went into a full-scale panic. They held the movie up for years, but that only made the public more desperate to see her. Jane Russell wasn't just hot, she was a revolution. She had a tall, athletic build and a frank, earthy sexuality that felt brand new. She wasn't the delicate flower of the 30s. She was a woman who looked like she could handle a horse, a gun, and any man who got in her way. But Jane was more than just a pinup. In the late 40s, she proved she had incredible comedic timing and a singing voice to match. She became a massive star not because of the scandals, but because she was genuinely likable. She had a pow quality. She was the girl you wanted to go on an adventure with. Whether she was leaning against a haystack in the posters for The Outlaw or trade quips in the Western comedies that followed, Jane Russell represented a new kind of American woman. Bold, unapologetic, and physically powerful. She was a force that even the Hays Code couldn't contain. Number 2. Ingrid Bergman, the radiant soul. If the other women on this list were fire and smoke, Ingrid Bergman was pure light. Arriving from Sweden, she brought a natural, scrubbed-clean beauty to Hollywood that made the heavy makeup of other actresses look dated. But don't let the saintly look fool you. Ingrid was one of the most passionate actresses to ever grace the screen. The year was 1942. The movie was Casablanca. As Ilse Lund, Ingrid Bergman gave us what is arguably the most romantic performance in film history. The way she looks at Humphrey Bogart in Rick's Cafe, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, is the gold standard of screen acting. She didn't just play a role, she lived it. Throughout the 40s, she was the undisputed queen of the box office, moving from the psychological tension of Hitchcock's Gaslight, which won her an Oscar, to the romantic thriller Notorious. In Notorious, she and Cary Grant shared what was then the longest kiss in movie history, a scene they had to film in small bites to bypass the censorship rules of the time. But Ingrid's 1940s ended in a scandal that shocked the world. When she left her husband and daughter to be with Italian director Roberto Rossellini, she was denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate as a powerful influence for evil. The public felt betrayed because they had cast her as a saint. But that was the reality of Ingrid Bergman. She was a woman of deep, real-world passions. She chose her heart over her career, and while it cost her for a while, it only made her legend grow. She was the soul of the 40s. Beautiful, complex, and fiercely independent. Number 1. Barbara Stanwyck, the Queen of Fire and Ice. We've reached the top of our list, and there is only one woman who could occupy this spot. She wasn't just a star, she was a powerhouse. Barbara Stanwyck didn't have the ethereal glow of Bergman or the sculptic perfection of Lamarr, but she had something more dangerous. She had the edge. In the 1940s, Stanwyck was the highest paid woman in America, and every cent was earned with grit. Her defining moment came in 1944 with Double Indemnity. When she appears at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a towel, wearing that iconic gold anklet, the atmosphere of cinema changed forever. As Phyllis Dietrichson, she created the blueprint for every femme fatale that followed. She was cold, calculating, and so incredibly seductive that she made murder look like a reasonable career move. But what makes Barbara truly number one is her versatility. In the same decade she was chilling our blood in noir films, she was making us laugh in Ball of Fire as the streetwise nightclub singer Sugar Puss O'Shea, or playing the sophisticated, independent woman in The Lady Eve. She was a man's woman in the best sense. She was tough, she didn't complain, and she knew the business better than the directors. Off-screen, she was known as the Queen by film crews because she knew every grip and electrician by name. She was a self-made orphan from Brooklyn who clawed her way to the top. Even in her most romantic roles, like in Sorry, Wrong Number, there was a raw, nervous energy that kept you glued to the screen. Barbara Stanwyck represented the strength of the 1940s. She was a woman who could survive the Depression, outsmart the mob, and look like $1 million in a silk gown while doing it. She is the ultimate icon of the Golden Age because she proved that the most attractive thing a woman could possess was a sharp mind and an unbreakable spirit. She didn't just light up the screen, she had them under her control. The 1940s are long gone, and the world of Hollywood has changed beyond recognition. But these 10 women remain frozen in time, icons of an era where glamour was a duty and charisma was king. They were the sirens who guided a generation through the darkness of war and into the neon light of the post-war era. Which of these legends was your favorite? Was it the mystery of Gene Tierney, the cool of Lauren Bacall, or the fire of Barbara Stanwyck? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear which of these films you remember seeing on the big screen. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe as we continue to journey through the golden vault of classic cinema. Until next time, keep the film rolling.